In 2013, I read a book called 10 Books That Screwed Up the World. And one of the entries on that list was this book, The Prince. And now, a decade and some change later, I decided that I was going to go and actually read this book for myself. And when I finished it, I realized that although I agreed that it should be on the list, because it technically is not a good book, I really enjoyed it. Welcome back to Read Like a Man. My name is Paige, and in this video, I want to dig into this book, The Prince, and specifically, I want to talk about how you can find good things in bad books, right? This is not an apologetics video for all bad books, right? There are some bad books that are not worth reading at all. There are other bad books that actually have gems in them, though, and this book is 1,000% one of those books. I went into this very much expecting to just not like it, to just be more reinforced in my idea of why it was not a good book and not a good thing for the world, that people read this and then go do what it says. And also just to not enjoy it. Like, I just didn't think it was going to be good. And then I'm not going to lie, I started, like, the very first page of it is the dedicatory preface. And the second paragraph, the second line of the second paragraph is, he says, "There could not be a greater gift for me than to give you the means to be able in a very brief time to understand all that I, in many years and with many hardships and dangers, have come to understand and appreciate." And I was like, holy crap. Like, one, this is really well said. And two, like, that's a really, like, true idea. That literally is the greatest gift you can give somebody. That's why, like, I value books so much, is they literally take an entire lifetime of someone's experience distilled down to the most pertinent and most clearly thought out arguments and things from it, right? And so I'm like, oh my gosh, like, do I like this book? Do I like The Prince? Is that what's happening right now? And then as I go on and read more, I'm like, oh my gosh, I really enjoyed this book. And so what I want to talk about with this one is I want to read a couple of different passages from it. And I want to just talk about kind of this idea that there can be truth and there can be good things in books, even if they are books that, like, overall you're like, it's kind of a net negative if people read that and do what it says, right? So The Prince still is like, it's a net negative. If you follow his conclusions of things, right, it's a net negative. Like, it's not going to lead to a good life. His conclusions of how to live a good life do not align with the truth of the word and what actually works in reality, right? But what is great in this book is his definitions of human nature, Machiavelli's understanding of human nature, and then the way that he talks about it inside of this book are just perfection. Like, they are so good, right? And so I'm going to find a couple of these and just read you some of these. One of the first ones that I want to read is, he was talking about lessons we could learn from the Romans. And he said, "For the Romans did in these instances what all wise princes should do. These princes have not only to watch out for present problems, but also for those in the future, and try diligently to avoid them. For once problems are recognized ahead of time, they can be easily cured. But if you wait for them to present themselves, the medicine will be too late, for the disease will have become incurable. And what physicians say about disease is applicable here, that at the beginning a disease is easy to cure but difficult to diagnose. But as time passes, not having been recognized or treated at the outset, it becomes easy to diagnose but difficult to cure." And this just reminded me of something that an old mentor of mine used to say all the time. He'd say, "Easy now, hard later, hard now, easy later," right? That's the only way you can do it. Like, that's how life works. It's either easy now, hard later, hard now, easy later. And I loved it. I've never heard it in the terms of the physician, like he was talking about, where diagnosing what the problem is really easy once the problem has got to the point where you can't really fix it, right? What's harder is clearly seeing what the problem is before it's gotten bad enough, and while it's in the stage that it's still curable, right? And this is what happens across all of human nature. This is true for all of us in all circumstances, right? It's really hard to clearly see the problem before it's become, out of control. But if you can see it before it becomes out of control, you have a much higher probability of being able to fix it. And so constantly, the thing that you should be striving for, and the thing this just related a ton to me, is like what one of my gifts is like seeing a problem clearly, right? And that's what you want to be able to do, because I say this all the time to people. I say, if you misdefine the problem, you misapply the solution. So a lot of the reasons why you can't fix the problems in your life is because what you think is the problem is not actually the problem. Because at the beginning, the problems are hard to diagnose. The disease is hard to diagnose. And by the time it gets to the point where it's very easy and anybody can diagnose it, it's gotten to the point where it's almost incurable, right? So I loved that one. That one was just a couple pages later. And it was like, oh crap. I think I'm really going to like this book. Like, oh man, am I going to really like The Prince? Like, what? This is weird. And then kind of in keeping with that, a few chapters later on, one of the things that he said was, because as stated above, anyone who does not lay his foundations beforehand could do so later on only with great skill, although this would be done with inconvenience to the architect and danger to the building. And that phrasing is just like, I love, I love this. And this is what I try to talk to young men about all the time. It's just like, if you don't build the characters to sustain the success and sustain the calling that God has for you later on, it can be built later on, but it can't be built later on without great inconvenience to the architect. Right? So if we bring this into a Christian perspective, it's like becoming a man who has the character to sustain what God has for you can be done later on, but it greatly inconveniences what God is wanting to do through you, right? And it has massive danger to the building. Like, it's a danger to your life. Your life is it's very, very difficult to fix anything without also just crumbling everything else in your life. So if you build the character first, then the things that come on top of that later will be okay and be able to be sustained. But if you don't build it first and you build the building on top of it first, you can do it. It's just really, really hard. And most likely you won't be able to do it well, right? And I loved everything about that phrase. I was just like, oh my gosh, dude, that's so well said. Another one a little bit later on, he said, man's short-sightedness will initiate a policy that seems good at the outset, but does not notice the poison that is concealed underneath. Can't even add anything to that. Just like, okay. It's like human nature in one sentence. There you go. Man's short-sightedness. And a little bit later on in a section called Concerning Military Matters, he was talking about how the prince needs to be well-versed in military things, and he needs to study battles and understand the histories and understand why guys lost and why guys won, and just have a martial mindset, right? And to sum up that chapter, he said, such methods as these a wise prince must follow, and never in peaceful times must he be idle. He must turn them diligently to his advantage in order to be able to profit from them in times of adversity, so that when fortune changes, she will find him prepared to withstand such times. And this is massively what we are in just our age right now. We're going through this transition from these times of prosperity and these times of good times that have created soft men. And what we're finding and what's being revealed is who put in the time and who kept their focus right during the easy times and during the times of peace to continue sharpening themselves and continue growing themselves and continue refining themselves physically and mentally and spiritually in order to be prepared now that fortune has changed. Because fortune has changed and it is changing, and hard times are already upon us and are coming, and the hard times reveal what you did in the easy times. Right? And it's so easy to do nothing in the easy times because they're the easy times. And I love this whole chapter in that, where he's just like, dude, the point of the easy times is to utilize them well to prepare you for the hard times, because the hard times are guaranteed to come. And when they do come, the number one thing that they reveal is whether you handled the easy times properly or not. Right? And yeah, just love that. When fortune changes, she will find him prepared to withstand such times. And then around the chapter 18 mark is kind of where we start to get into where he's giving more of the advice that that starts to turn into the you really shouldn't follow this advice. The first half of the book is a lot of the diagnosing the problems, right? Which is just brilliant. So much of what he has to say is absolutely brilliant. And then this is starting to get into the term where we're starting to kind of give the solution. And this is where a lot of the stuff is just not good. But there's a couple of things in here that I want to point out. He's talking about whether a prince should keep his word or not. And he has this part where he says, but it is necessary to know how to disguise this nature well and to be a great hypocrite and a liar. And men are so simple-minded and so controlled by their present needs that the one who deceives will always find another who will allow himself to be deceived. And holy crap, man. You read that and you're like, oh, frick. Like, who's more the fool or the fool who follows him? Like, who's worse, the deceiver or the guy who's willing to be deceived because he's so short-sighted and because he is so simple-minded and so consumed with his present needs that he doesn't think anything past, this immediate thing right here, right? And I just like that again. I'm like, that is a perfect explanation of human nature. Like the man looking to deceive will always be able to find somebody to deceive, somebody willing to let themselves be deceived because it's just human nature. And again, like so much of this book, I'm like, what you say to do because of this, not good. Your definition of the current state of things is like almost flawless in so many different ways. Like the things that he says are just like, oh, so good. And then the last one that I'll read came from, he's talking about the prince's private advisors. And he said, the first thing one does to evaluate the wisdom of a ruler is to examine the men that he has around him. And when they are capable and faithful, one can always consider him wise, for he has known how to recognize their ability and to keep them loyal. But when they are otherwise, one can always form a low impression of him, for the first error he makes is made in this choice of advisors. And I love that because it coincided so well with something that's been stirring in me of like one of my just favorite questions of all time, like talking to anybody is just like, hey, what you been reading? Right. And it's such a great question because if you have been reading and if you have been intentionally setting aside time to work to grow yourself, right, then that answer is going to be great and it's going to benefit both of us, right? Because you're going to be like, oh, well, I've been reading this, like I've been doing this, I've been working on this, right? And if you haven't, it immediately makes obvious, like, hey, bro, well, why not? Like, what you been reading? Well, nothing really. Like, why? That's like the most basic thing that you could do. What do you mean you haven't? What do you mean you haven't been reading? Like, what? Why? And especially even in more specifically in the believer sense, right? It's like, what's God been showing you in the Bible? Well, I haven't been reading my Bible. Like, what? Are you kidding me? That's like the single most basic thing that you're supposed to do. Like, why haven't you, like, what excuse do you have? And why do you think that that's a good excuse for being like, no, I haven't been reading like, there is no excuse that is good for, no, I haven't been reading my Bible, right? And so I just love that it's like, there's this certain thing that you can look at, and be like, hey, who have you surrounded yourself with, right? Which is just another version, like the what have you been reading is just another version of who have you surrounded yourself with, right? What have you been letting in? What have you been surrounding your mind and your heart and your thoughts and your emotions with, right? Who are your friends physically in real life, but also in your head? Like, are your friends all the characters from The Office? Why? Like, really? Really? That's all you got? Not great, man. And so, yeah, I loved that quote where he's like, it immediately shows you if the friends that he surrounds himself with wise, with himself with are wise, it immediately shows you like, hey, he got the first thing right. And if you look at him and the people he's surrounded with are just idiots, you're like, oh, I can make a fairly confident guess that he's not really that wise because he screwed up the very first thing, right? And I just love it. And it just made me think of the reading thing because reading it's just that. It's like, dude, it's just another version of who are you surrounding yourself with? And if the answer is like, oh, well, I haven't really had time to read, or I'm reading Fourth Wing, it's like, really? Really? That's okay. Anyways, rant over on that. The Prince by Machiavelli. Should you read it? Yes, you should. You should not follow it. Like I say, his conclusions based off everything basically kind of fall in the line of, hey, it doesn't matter what it is. It matters what it looks like, right? Which is totally not the case. It matters what it is, and it doesn't matter what it looks like. It matters what it is, right? That's the actual Christian truth. It matters what it is and not what it looks like. His conclusion is it only matters what it looks like. So it doesn't matter if you actually are truthful. You just have to appear truthful and appear generous and whatever. And if you appear, then it's good enough. Not a great plan. And then to basically like, hey, people are going to screw you over, so screw them over first. And the ends don't totally justify the means. That's actually not what he says, but that's pretty much what people take from this every time that they read it, which is another really interesting phenomenon. Like the main thing that people say about this, is just like, oh, like that's the book that says like the ends justify the means. And he pretty much says that, like the opposite of that directly at one point. But then at the end of it, the way that he talks, again, with this whole thing of like, hey, if you get the outcome that you want, then it doesn't really matter, right? And how he talks about it is not necessarily in the ends justify the means type thing. And he's like, you can't take it that far, but it's closer to that than not. And so most people, if they read it, they come away with that and they're like, hey, it doesn't matter as long as I appear to be generous, as long as I appear to be whatever, which again, we know is like the polar opposite of an actual Christian worldview and the actual truth about how the world works. So yeah, don't follow a lot of his advice, but this is a fascinating and very, very well-written book. And like I say, I think has some of the most pertinent descriptions of the state of human nature that I have read in I don't even know how long. So super enjoyed it. If you want to pick it up, I'll leave a link in the description below. That's an affiliate link. My books are down there, all the stuff. Make sure you're subscribed, and yeah, see you in the next one.